For every city you burn, I'm gonna build one high.
Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and it is November 7th, YC126. This is my co-pilot, Zoe. And this is the Eve Universe Show. Thank you. Welcome. Settle on in. How's it going, guys? It's been a week. It continues to be a week. It hasn't stopped being a week for several weeks now. But we are here. We've got some stuff to go over today. Oh, I'm peeking. Hold on. Thought I fixed that. We have some stuff to go over today. But the big news, honestly, okay, I'll be honest with you. I debated whether or not I should stream today because tomorrow is when we're going to get the dev live letter, which hopefully like Malik or somebody will post or give me the time or information about that. But tomorrow is the day that we're getting presumably a lot more of the details about Revenant. So I was concerned that today was just going to be like, hey guys, tomorrow's going to be cool. See you then. And, you know, there have been times in those sorts of cases where I've decided to just wait to stream the next day. But, I mean, I also didn't really go on Tuesday. I did do a recording of Black Mountain, which I hope to put out to you guys soon. But, yeah, obviously, as I said on, I think, Monday, my last stream, there's been a lot going on in our life right now with the new puppy and my son's mom getting ran into and all that stuff. We're recovering, but obviously with everything else that has been going on this week, it's been extra stressful and I'm a bit scatterbrained. So bear with me. But tomorrow we are going to get a lot of good information. However, upon reviewing it, I did want to stream today. And I had some pretty good reasons. I was debating behind doing some more Eve Galaxy Conquest stuff because I want to put out like a little guide because people have been asking for a lot of questions and there's been a lot of interest in it. But like, I didn't want to just do 2 full Eve Galaxy Conquest streams at the same time. So the point is that today I want to kind of go over where we're at. We have some little news from Eve Online, but we do have some news from Vanguard. And I have some Eve Galaxy Conquest stuff to show you guys as far as some strategy and some later stage stuff, mid-stage stuff that we're getting into. Also, I got a much better way of streaming it now, and I'm really excited about that and want to show it off. So hope you can bear with me today. It's going to be a good show. It's going to be a good show. How you guys doing? How's everybody holding out? To me, it is flabbergasting how close to Revenant we are with how little information that we have. On the one hand, like, so we have we have the information about the ships, and we went over that in a previous stream. But we don't really have that much information. We have the lightest of touches of information about the mercenary dens, with the fact that it interacts with anarchy, which seems like nullsec's version of corruption, and it converts clones into infomorphs that we can presumably use to like build, I believe, the ammunition for the new ships, which makes a lot of sense. Are we going to stream the patch notes tomorrow? Absolutely. So that is a big thing. I was actually asking for the information. When is the stream? When are you guys presenting your stuff, Satonia? Sorry, that was one of the reasons why I was distracted while I was talking, was because like I was trying to figure that out. I tried to look up the announcements right before the show, but I couldn't find it. and it put me off my back. Put me on my back foot. Hopefully it distracts me until PoE launch 2 launches in December. I never got into Path of Exile. Because like by the time there's the whole like I like Diablo 2 more than Diablo 3 thing. A, I actually kind of like Diablo 3, especially after the expansion. But B, I was kind of done with Diablo 2. 1600, which is the director's stream, ends at 1700, which is the patch notes, and Hobo Leaks will be visible. Okay, great. And it is 1900 now. So my normal stream time is going to be plenty. Okay, great. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch the director stream, do the thing, and then on my show, we will go through the patch notes, and I'll probably pull up the director stream so that way I can show something if it's worth anything. So here's the thing about this. In previous expansions, we got, like, at the very beginning of the expansion announcement, we got all of the top level things that we're getting that expansion. And then every week, one of those aspects got a dev blog about it. And they'd be like, next week we're getting this, the next week we're going to get this, right? Revenant feels a little bit different in a couple of ways. One, those dev blogs were much more consolidated. The dev blogs for Revenant that we got, I think we've only gotten 2 of them, but they were like multi-topicked. You know, we talked about Skinner and corporation projects, and touched on things like the ships or whatever. Or I don't remember all the details, but they weren't as like mono topic as the previous ones, which means also that they were kind of less detailed in a lot of ways. They don't go into the nitty gritties. Now we did get nitty gritties. The other thing is that they were posting videos in relationship to these that had some extra information that was more than what was just in the dev blog, right? And that's actually where we got a lot of information about, like, say, the ships. There is no dev blog with the ship stats. There is a video that they put out that showed off some of the stats, and we've kind of pulled out from there to see what we can see. So, for what we have coming, we know very little. We don't really know anything specific about how mercenary dens are going to be built, sourced, deployed, how long they're expected to be up, how detectable they will be, how much they can be used by invaders versus defenders, all those things. None of that's known. When it comes to the ships, how we can acquire the ships, how that relates to the mercenary dens, how that relates to the Deathless and the Atavum, none of that is known. The Skinner is the only thing that we really know a lot about, because it's really simple to say. You get to use 2 patterns now, and you can trade between, you can make private contracts to private corporation or alliance that use Zevra marks instead of taking its own cut for the market, right? Like, that's there. I just explained it, right? That's not a in-depth thing. You could theoretically show off how the 2 patterns interact with each other, but that's as complicated as that gets. However, the meat and potatoes of it, we are less than a week out. We are going to get patch notes before I can explain to you the high-level details of how a mercenary den works. One of the principal components of the thing. Now look at, can I do this? Hold on. Maybe I can make my point. If we go here and we search for, like, Equinox. Yeah, we have Equinox and Focus, personalized ship skins, Equinox and Focus, stronger groups and enhanced goals. This is kind of the equivalent of the one we had before. So this is just showing projects and the goals and some of the extra UI stuff. This doesn't even have the Skinner stuff in it. This is just goals and stuff. So this is like 1/3 of one of the dev blogs from this time. We have the new Upwell ships. In this dev blog, it's all about them. It shows them all. It explains them in pretty intimate detail. The most official detail that we have about these new ships before the video is that they had mixed weapon types. You know, like this is already, and this one came out weeks ahead of Equinox. So my point is that we had quite a bit of information, detailed information about each piece of Equinox as we were moving towards it, to the point that there was very little room for the director's letter to have too much more, and yet we still get the carriers have jump capability, right? So they held that to the very end for the director's live letter to show off. In contrast, now I can't. I'm not going to repeat myself, but all of that stuff I said before that I don't know about Revenant, right? I have no idea. My group wants to go do the mercenary dens because we want to support the Deathless. I have no idea what kind of fleet I'm going to want, how I'm going to get there, whether or not it's even feasible for me as a non-nullsec. Is this only going to be for the sovereignty people? Because it sounded like they wanted people to come in from external and do it, but like, how does that even play out? No idea. None. It comes out next week. No ability to plan for it. So at the very minimum, am I going to keep streaming that save game? I'm going to stream from my main save game and have some guides about it, but we'll get there after this. So like, there is a lot of information for them to reveal about Revenant just with the information that we have so far about Revenant, right? But here's the other thing. Hold on, I gotta close this real quick. Now, I will, full disclosure, I will admit that I have had problems in the past of trying to read too much into what CCP is doing and be like, oh, well, there's like a something sized hole in the content that is being announced. It must mean, like, a good example of this is when the Havoc expansion was coming out. I was so sure that all the pieces were coming together for a new LP store. Sometimes I can't read the tea leaves right. So take that in mind. And every single time I've tried to say like, okay, well, hold on a second. Every single time I try to like imply that there must be more coming based on what we already know, I end up being bit for that. That's one of the reasons why I've kind of become more conservative about suggesting some things, those sorts of things. That said, as I'm saying, we already know that there is a mountain of valuable, necessary, key information about what's coming that we don't have. How does the out-of-M how is the out-of-M connected? How are encrypted infomorphs connected? How do we build the structures? How do we get the structures? How do we build the ships? How do we get the ships? How does this have to do with, does this have anything to do with faction warfare or the insurgencies as they are right now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of that is still not known in a way that is not really, I'm not really used to us not having that much detail 1 week out. But the thing that bothers me, so like with Viridian, I never really understood like what the point of Viridian was. Like it was just saying this handful of features, and it's like, oh, Viridian is green is Galente. There must be some Galente thing. No, not at all. It was just like they needed a thing, and it was kind of a supportive patch that, you know, I've talked to CCP afterwards. It wasn't like new growth Viridian, but like there wasn't a there. But it never really suggested that there was a there. By contrast, hey, thanks for that. By contrast, I want to show you the Revenant teaser trailer.
Victory comes at a cost. A momentary pause while all regroup. But now, I have the lock the key. And united, we will strike at the heart of darkness.
What does that have anything to do with any of this? That could have been a trailer for an entirely different expansion. Not a single thing. Normally, a trailer will have, like, you would expect to see the ships that are in the expansion, or, you know, I mean, you see it at the very end here, but you would expect there to be something that helps you understand. Like, he'd be like, go forth and bring me mercenaries, show mercenary den, you know, use our new weapons of battle against our foes, shows new ship, right? Like, that's what you would expect. This, does anything that we've been talking about have to do with a war against the drifters and a lock and the Adavum? Nothing. There is a drifter-sized hole in our knowledge of what is coming in Revenant. And that drifter-sized hole is sitting right here behind the Deathless. Like, so what is going on here? I think that there's two ways of looking at this. One, the more ambitious, aggressive, optimistic perspective that I could have, which I caution you against, is that we're in it for a hell of an announcement tomorrow, right? I think it is possible that CCP has experimented or been learning about how, like, you got to think about it. We see it as a pattern. You know, we look at the past and we blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, yeah, they did it this way, so we can use that to infer what they're doing now. They're a company, right? They see it from their side. They have an omniscient knowledge about what they're planning on doing, right? They don't have to read any tea leaves. So, but from their perspective, they're constantly iterating on their own processes, right? So, you know, how they roll out an expansion is one of those things that you iterate on. How much time... Because, like, it used to be that you would announce an expansion like 6 months ahead of time, as early as you can, get people hyped. But, you know, as games have progressed, especially as we transition to more free-to-play, I remember it was one year, the year it stood out to me was Hearthstone, because Hearthstone announced an expansion, and they were like, and it's going to be out next week. And everyone went mad because the problem is that when you announce an expansion too early, you get this big peak of hype. And then by the time it comes out, it feels almost lackluster because everybody's already kind of pre-digested it so much that it, oh, wait, that hasn't happened already, you know, whatever. And so, like, what as a result of that, timelines of announcements of expansions compressed. They used to announce games 2 years before the game was released, right? A lot of the time. So, not like expansions, but, you know, like main games. So, you know, but even more so, the thing is that last time they saved that final announcement for the dev blog, or the developer, the producer's letter, whatever you want to call it, with the carriers. I think that they learned that that was a pretty hyped way of doing it, and now they want to dial it up to 11, right? So now they have big pieces of information that everyone knows still needs to be announced. Eyes on the prize, which gives them an opportunity for some sort of twist. What is the Heart of Darkness? I mean, I don't know what the Heart of the Darkness is, but it is related to the Drifter, because that's a Drifter. Am I going to see it? Do you see it? Hold on.
Victory comes.
Hold on. First of all, that is a Drifter siege engine.
Victory comes at a cost. A momentary pause.
You see the Drakovec back there? The broken Drakovec?
While all regroup.
That is a Drifter. That's the female Drifter. So, like, what's happening? Like, we could have one hell of a live letter coming up. We could have one hell of a developer thing where, like, the drifters. So here's the thing. Hold on. The drifters have a way of breaking into things.
We are currently waiting to receive a live broadcast from DED headquarters in Ulai, where the body of a drifter was delivered earlier today for analysis. The 4 scientists who performed the preliminary autopsy have provided the scope with an exclusive first look at the full autopsy report. The report confirms similarities between Drifter and Jove genetics, despite significant physical differences. Noted by doctors Anslo Tetua and Mizir Starsurge was the odd absence of vocal cords and abnormal blood composition, the latter believed to be connected to the low-level radiation still being emitted post-mortem. The autopsy also confirms that the augmentation present in the subject is necessary for its survival. Further study is already underway at... It would appear that the broadcast has started. After an initial statement, we expect that we will be permitted to ask questions.
It does appear that the broadcast signal has been lost. However, we will resume as soon as the broadcast is...
So that was, you can see at the very end there, that is a drifter battleship outside of the station. So when this actually happened, when this announcement happened, there was a drifter attack on this station that had to be repelled by people. So the drifters have the ability to hack into and break down transmissions. Now, unlike, say, the Deathless, who has absolutely broken into... Hold on. EVE Online FanFest Deathless. Is that going to work? No. Oh well. Like the Deathless video that I always post, this video here, this was actually an interruption in FanFest, right? So the FanFest presentation was hacked, and the Deathless presented this announcement to everyone, right? I think there has been previous times that that a presentation has been hacked before. CCB Burger, in particular, really likes giving a presentation and having it be interrupted by a lore character. He's done it many times, and he always seems to get very, very happy about it. So, or he's really like geeked out about it. But either way, so it is very possible that we could see an interruption of the service. However, the key here is that the Deathless had something to say. The Drifters have never communicated with us ever. So it could very well be that the Deathless is going to hack into the presentation and say something. I don't necessarily think it's going to be the Drifters, because the Drifters have nothing to say to us, if that makes sense. But this is the optimistic prediction, okay? The more pragmatic position is what I think that we're seeing here is a turn in the story and a signpost for where we're going, okay? So when we switched to the arcs, when we started story arcs, the very first arc that we had was kind of the Shadow War story, right? Which really started with this. Honestly, this is one of the first things that happened with it. Technically speaking, the other attacks, arguably you could say we're still in that arc, but the point is that we had that, like, kind of the rise of the Deathless's Chaos Machine, which was happening at the same time as a breakdown in politics between the various empires that leads to uprising the expansion. Right? So that's kind of where we started. And we knew that, we were dealing with the Deathless. We knew that we were dealing with the empires descending into war, all that kind of happy stuff. And we knew, out of game, we knew that CCP was going to be working on low sec for 2 years and then transition to null sec. So then they did the 2 years of low sec, cool, and then we begin to transition to null sec with Equinox, and suddenly we have this world in which the deathless situation has at least somewhat resolved, right? In the same way that the Triglavians resolved. And if you think about the story of the Triglavians from their first appearance to invasion to the formation of Pochvin being its concluding point, its new point of stability. In the same way, Zarzak, the Deathless, and Havoc is kind of a new resting point, or could potentially be a new resting point. Congratulations, you now have your new faction, you have your new space, you have your new thing. It could proceed, or it could go back into kind of standby as a different story is worked on, if that makes sense. So, and then we have Vanguard, where we've seen a bunch of stuff with Vanguard, and we kind of get a feel for what it's going to be, but it's very difficult for us to understand kind of where it's going, which, by the way, we will be looking at. They have posted a lot of stuff about where they see Vanguard going, that we'll be reading later. What I think we're seeing here is like, we kind of like, okay, well, Upwell is building their forces in defense against the Deathless, and the Deathless is trying to unlock Zarzak, and that's where we're at. We have been doing nullsec stuff. Upwell gives nullsec a whole bunch of new tools because that helps expand their power, and Upwell was kind of founded originally in order to build stuff for Capsuleers specifically. So, that makes a lot of sense where that goes, but it's like, where do we keep going? We didn't know where the expansion was going to go when it comes to nullsec. What is the next step for any of this? If you noticed, we had signposts for where we were going to go months, if not years ahead of time at every single point until now. Like, we're at this strange, like, resolution point in a lot of the stuff where we know that there's going to be a next step, but there's nothing about this current step that tells us what it's going to be. It's like a movie trilogy, right? The movie ends. The main plot lines, all of the main threads are done. It obviously sets up for the future, but you don't necessarily know how. This is the very hints of the future. Where is it? This is where we're going. So the confusion is, I don't think... One of the problems that we run into all the time as players of EVE Online is that we don't understand how time works, both in how long it takes to develop things, but also how, like, a universe that has a story that unfolds in real time really works, right? In a lot of video games, you have expansions where a lot of things happen all at once, and like, or you read about it in some book or whatever. EVE is a story that plays out day by day by day. These beats play out day by day by day. The Deathless doesn't announce that he's building up forces to attack the Heart of Darkness and attack the Heart of Darkness on the same day, right? This is the very beginning. This is the very first step. This is the Deathless basically stating that this is where we're going. That the next arc, the next chunk of this content, for however long it's going to be, is going to be about the growing war between the Deathless and the Drifters. Which brings up a lot of interesting points, because it's like, now it's with enemy is my friend, there's a lot of interesting sides to this, right? Because technically speaking, that puts the Deathless and the Triglavians, they have a mutual enemy. But then again, everybody has the Drifters as a mutual enemy. So how this ties into it, I think, is how this kind of begins to tie all these things together is going to be important. But I think that Revenant, I think that what happens in a week is barely the very beginning of it, right? I think that throughout Revenant, we will maybe learn more and more and more as to what's going on. I don't know if the lock is going to be unlocked on Revenant. Maybe. That could be the dev stream tomorrow. They could unlock the lock and we find out what's in it, and that's how we know all of the pieces. But I'm just also cautioning us that this is something that could unfold throughout the entire expansion. Me coping that we're getting a gate to Joe space in Zarzak. There is, so the logs that we got about the Deathless puts the idea of going to Jove space back into play pretty heavy, right? Because he talks about trying to go there at the very beginning, and like the secrets and the mysteries are there. He's trying to unlock the secrets. Now, the thing about Jove space now, here's the thing. He wants the secrets of the second Jovian Empire, but the second Jovian Empire was an angel space. The current Jove space is the third Jovian Empire. But my point is that, like, while normally I don't say, or I've become more cautious to say, there's clearly something big that's coming that hasn't even been talked about. The point is that there's clearly something that is on the picture for the trailer, for the expansion, that hasn't been talked about at all. So, I mean, the tagline for the expansion, strike at the heart of darkness. What? How? I mean, like, is this going to be new content for the Drifter Hives? Because if the Drifters are the evil ones or whatever, and you're striking at the Drifters' homes, that's the Drifter Hives, right? Are they talking about the Empires? Are they like, either way? Yeah, but you'll have to share Joe's space with Frat. I want the Guri Malachim and the the Malachim Zealots and the Commando Guri to just excommunicate Frat and not allow them to like set Frat to -10 or whatever, and or no, I guess because if they have more positive standings, but yeah. Yeah, but that is Wormhole, which doesn't seem to match. What do you mean? You mean the Drifters are wormholes? Oh, you mean like striking the heart of darkness? Yeah. The Drifter Hives are 6 different five different wormholes. That is correct. But also, this could mean that we finally get to unlock whatever's going on inside the Drifter Hives. Because inside the Drifter Hives, there's an alignment unit, and you need to do an alignment unit, and there's these big vortexes. So it's always felt like something should be able to happen there, but nothing ever happens. So it is very, like, he has the key and the lock, or at least we're bringing him the key, the Atavum. So, yeah, either way, the point is that this time tomorrow, we will know a lot more information. So I guess that's enough speculating and getting you guys excited about it. I look forward to seeing what we see. Let me know down below, like, still, like, in the comments, post your predictions. Is there going to be a big announcement tomorrow? What is the big announcement? What is the surprise? We're getting 2 Titans, whatever. Let me know. Make sure to post it today, so that way because we can all go look back. I think comments have timestamps, right? I think comments have time. Let's pretend like comments have timestamps. They've got me interested, so it's working. Yeah, there's definitely something that we're going to learn tomorrow. It's just how exciting it is. All right, next. There was an Alliance wrap-up, Alliance Tournament 2020. Alliance Tournament wrap-up for Alliance Tournament 20. Congratulations to the Tuskers. I do recommend going and checking out the videos. The ships are so cool looking. Although probably nobody in the chat will have one anytime soon. Maybe. If you do, say something. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, you do. Yep, you do. I believe that. How's it going, man? Have you seen the new El Minor kill mail with the new ships? I have not. I'm tired too, but we're getting through it. If you guys haven't yet, make sure, like, you should go check out... Oh, God, what system is it in? What system is it in? Quick. I thought they would say it there. Monarch. Yeah. The Alliance Tournament Monument. If you've never been there before, it is very pretty, and it has all of the different winners in a row. It's pretty cool. You should check it out. But I digress. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Vanguard. The last time we talked about Vanguard, we had this bit to talk about. Hold on. Yeah, that's fine. We were talking about Vanguard in 5 years, where they say Vanguard is an MMO FPS. It is an FPS through how players interact with the world, though more through a more human lens with a gun in their hands. It is an FPS for players who want more complex, deeper, and connected experiences. An FPS that caters to many different playstyles that rewards players for participation, decision-making, and system mastery. It's an MMO for players who want to have a lasting impact on the gameplay environment, access to expansive universe, and connected universe, blah, 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 blah. This is actually different. Nope, never mind. Ha! I haven't gotten there yet. Sorry, the last time we saw was Evolution of Combat, where they talked about the different, the new bad guys that were coming and whatnot. Now we're looking at Vanguard in 5 years. Sorry. Correction. Now, in 5 years is a long time. Nothing can ever stay perfectly solid for 5 years without changing somewhat, and even truer in video games and video game development. In September 2023 at eFanFest, just over 1 year ago, we announced Vanguard to the world. Alongside with live gameplay, we talked about Vanguard was right there and then, and what we wanted it to be, and what we wanted it to grow into the future. There is still a lot that we've talked about then that is still true now and what we want Vanguard to become. But even in this short year between then and now, we are about to release only our second major feature update to Vanguard. We have learned so much, grown as a team, and gained confidence in what we want Vanguard to become. So what they're pointing out here is two things. One, they're going to be giving us an idea in this post about their vision for the future of Vanguard. But they're giving us a little caveat, disclaimer. A, you know, this is an evolving thing. So, you know, keep that in mind. Also, this means that it may not match perfectly with what they said before, as their own understanding of what Vanguard is evolves. Vanguard is an MMO FPS. It is we already read all that. Is an MMO, blah, blah, blah. Is an MMO for players who don't just play one way. We don't want one single experience repeatedly with just new content added. This is a game for players who want lasting impact, player-driven ecosystem, and progression in economy that doesn't reset so your identity and actions live on. Vanguard MMOS that has playgrounds, tools, and experiences for players to create their own stories that have impact on a single, vast, shared universe, and one day be the part of a record-breaking tales that got them excited to be part of the universe in the first place. So, and they have some inspirational pictures. Ooh, ah. So this is just platitudes, right? Like, none of this means anything that much. The Eve connection. Here we go. Now we're getting a little bit into the meat of things. Those are very different concepts, though, Savros. So, and it could, in the end, enrich Eve. That universe that Eve Vanguard inhabits is clearly Eve Online's New Eden, and players that exist within it that you will connect with. This is what truly makes Vanguard an MMO FPS that can help set a new standard as to what it really means to in a game. Eve Vanguard will be another avenue to experience that single universe, its economy, its social structures, the politics, and all the glory and loss of battles that still take place there. Vast corporations, new and old, will span across both Eve Vanguard and Eve Online as one. Wars fought, lines redrawn, territories lost and gained will be fought across both experiences. Our existing expansion right now into how Vanguard will fight in the insurgencies is a testament to the direction and depth of the connection that we want to build out here. So what they're saying is that for all of you who think that you're going to be able to like just continue to have your Eve Empire long term without any sort of Vanguard support, chances are at some point Vanguard is going to become an increasingly integral part in how we develop strategies, attack, and defend ourselves, especially for like territory warfare. The way it works right now is that the Vanguard, while you're doing Vanguard, you can choose missions that will affect the corruption or suppression within the systems in like insurgencies. So while we're doing insurgencies in Eve, capturing plexes to raise suppression and corruption, there are people playing in the Vanguard that are fighting matches and filling contracts to do the same thing. Now, that impact was really, really turned down for these fights, or for these the first few playtests, but you know that basically they're proving out the concept of having a real impact. The Vanguard and how those EVE Online is at it. Hold on. Yeah, EVE Online is at its core a resource game, and a legendary economy is housed on those solid foundations. EVE Vanguard will be no different in how it's fueled. People fighting for power, influence, and the resources that are required for that late into the Elder game. How those resources flow between EVE Online and EVE Vanguard is very important. It cannot be total, as the scale of these two experiences are just far too different. The Vanguard on the ground aren't thinking of trading in the scale of capital ships, or are you? They're thinking about guns and suits, modules, weapon chip sets, and whatever amount of contraband that they might be able to shift around themselves. But that doesn't mean the weight has to be so disparate. Something found on the world, however small, can have massive impact in the right hands of Capsuleer. Something sent down from space, however small to a Capsuleer, could be a huge in turning tides of a skirmish on the ground. Whether it be resources, equipment, influence, or even intel, we want to create tools in EVE Vanguard that allow players to manage the flow of useful components into the economy that surrounds it, to have an impact upwards into EVE Online and feel its effects on the surface back from it. EVE Online is often player-driven chaos, and with Vanguard, as above, so below. So a good example of this is, you know, they've already said that mercenary dens are going to have events that are tied to it that influence the amount of anarchy within the system. So what if you can drop a mercenary den and then deploy your Vanguard onto the planet and just start kidnapping people, basically? And you can, that's how you collect infomorphs, potentially. Just as a thought. I'm not the developer. With a great bit of competitive analysis we received on EVE Vanguard said something very key. If you want to bring New Eden to EVE Vanguard, you got to bring the players. And that insight is correct. EVE Online is what it is because of its players, how they connect, the social structures that they built, the operations that they run, and the feuds that they live by. That will be embodied in EVE Vanguard with even more systemic integration as to how players connect across both games through corporations, alliances, and faction allegiances. Again, warning to you, if you think that your life is going to be unimpacted by EVE Vanguard, what they're basically saying here is that, like, a different way, a more pessimistic way of putting this is, oh, they're going to force you to care about EVE Vanguard, right? Because, like, basically, it's all going to be interconnected. In the businesses of video games, you look up, it's like saying, oh, yeah, they forced us to worry about mining, right? Well, yeah, because resource collection is part of the whole process. You have to have a war machine. In the business of video games, you look for a USB, unique selling point. For EVE Vanguard, EVE Online and EVE Vanguard's predecessor, Dust 514, not the setting, it's space, not the actors, it's capital ships, but it's players and systems that they have built. Yeah, okay. But what will it actually play like? Good question. At the core of what we want EVE Vanguard to play like is an open FPS with many different experiences and playgrounds to allow players to play in the ways in which they want to. That doesn't, much like a traditional MMO. If you like to play competitive PvP fighting for the front line, then there should be a place and experience for you in EVE Vanguard. Similarly, if you just want to mine and gather resources for your friend or corporation, you want to field test a new loadout and take on a horde of NPC drones, you want to deploy down to the surface of a planet with friends and not know what you want to do or what you'll find, all of these playstyles, all of these experiences are part of the central economy, a central progression flow, and the pushing of and pulling of impacts across the same shared universe. It's funny because, like, so they almost, like, you can tell it's almost modeled off of Bartle's taxonomy, right? Like, if you want to kill people, killer. If you want to build things and then test loadouts on hordes of NPCs, achievers, or if you want to go and explore things, explorers, all of these are and more are yours. Which the one that they're missing out of that is socializers, which socializers is just the glue out of all of those. So yeah, they nailed all of the Bartle's taxonomy there with that one description. We've said that we don't just want to make a single mode, a single experience for players repeat over and over. We want to keep making new experiences, adding to many playstyles that define sandbox MMO games, and we're building towards the lofty goals of a CCP game, a forever game. Can I be a detective that investigates crimes and murders in the dingy cities of Kali? No, not a sandbox yet. No, I'm just kidding. Like, all of this reads like a pitch of what they want to do when it's been in development for years. Why wouldn't it already be there? Is this another stay tuned for more to come blog? I mean, on the one hand, yes, like, this is literally, they're talking about their, like, upcoming plan for, like, the next 5 years. That's the entire premise of this conversation. On the other hand, like, yeah, they have been working on this for a long time. However, a lot of the old design, like a lot of previous iterations, have been scrapped. And a lot of the things that they've been working on are fundamentals, right? Like, so when you're building a game, a crap ton of your game is of your time developing the game is just building systems, right? Like making sure that you can run around and jump on things and shoot your gun and have your gun go where it needs to be. There's only one gun, for crying out loud. Right? They are nowhere near, like, they haven't even built the tools by which to construct the things that they're talking about, let alone started being able to build the things that they're talking about. So yeah, this is actually quite a ways away. Yes, we could be sad that they weren't able to salvage more from, say, Nova or other previous iterations. But at the same time, like, development takes a long time. I don't know what else to tell you. Would you like them to shunt more resources into trying to get this developed harder? Because honestly, these are just things that take time to cure. At the center of Vanguard experience, however, is the loop that we are building. Players deploying down to surface planets, killing, looting, scavenging, turning. And that's the thing, is that the reason why everything's kind of one mode right now is because they're still developing the vertical path, right? So it doesn't matter if you are a combat pilot or a combat fighter or a miner or an industrialist or whatever. Like, the idea of finding planets, deploying to them, doing things, coming back up, those mechanics of how this whole thing works is, like, those pieces get reused in those other contexts. But for the purposes of playtesting, the traditional shooter portion of it, probably has the most resources available to you to be able to put it together quickly to make it effective or, like, playable sooner. But also, like, people get it, right? If they put in mining right now, like, what the would that? I mean, like, they kind of technically do have mining right now. But if, like, if they try to put in a whole different, like, non-combat profession right now, it just, like, it may make sense in the broader context of the game, but it wouldn't make sense this early to the game. It wouldn't test anything new. So it's better to test those pieces in the context that makes sense to the people that are actually testing it, and then be like, and now we're going to grow this fledgling thing, you know, like, oh, I'm going to mine this stuff. We actually already saw examples of this. You know, right now, mining is just like, ooh, pop the things, then pick them up. But then the next one, in the next iteration, they're making it so that different mining crystals hit different layers, so they're already adding more depth to that play style. But it's got to grow off of this bare bones concept of a game that they have right now. Many good, great games. Most great games take several years to make. Stoic comes in with an immortal membership. 07. Hi, Ash. I choose to be optimistic and look forward to connecting the universe of Eve, which expands the player base. Even my perspective is stuck at 35k max anytime. Doesn't go down and hasn't got a bump much either, right? Yeah, I mean, it's true that we've been kind of pretty flat. Now, there's a lot being hidden there with, like, churn and other stuff like that. It would be sweet to see numbers go up, for sure. It'd be sweet. All right. At the center of these Vanguard experience, however, is the loop that we've been building. Players deploying onto this surface of planets, killing, looting, scavenging, turning in contracts, competing for activities to earn, fight, and steal resources. Resources that feed into what players can manufacture, sell, trade, and grow. Grow as Vanguard in power, influence, and infamy. These currencies are how players move through the universe, grow more, and more important, interact with everyone else that inhabits it. Primary to this is players deploying down to the more sandbox-like environments like we have at the moment, and will only continue to expand on and flesh out. But around the edges of these are other secondary experiences that you or any other, or to the Elder game, may start to become more primary. These are the likes of more PvP-leaning experiences like fighting in insurgencies or even fighting over front lines that take part in more separate skirmishes that players deploy down to. In future possibility, the more economically run experiences, the more industrial, the more social, even purely PvE in nature. While we're not restricting ourselves in how the game as a whole needs to be played, we just want to provide you with the tools, build the playgrounds, and that can cater to how anyone might want to play and contribute to the EVE universe, and each and every one of our players can feel a sense of belonging in New Eden. Honestly, you know what I think I would like to see them do? Drop the FPS nomenclature. I think that they should just call it a first-person experience. Like, right? I feel like having everything be in the context of it being a shooter kind of implies what it is, right? Like, it's hard. Yeah, it's a shooter where you can go and start a space bar. Like, that doesn't, like, okay, I don't know. I'd like to see it more thought of as a first-person game, but obviously the shooter aspect of it is core. But it seems like they're trying to expand it out from it being a shooter, but they always still call it a shooter. In your hands will be guns, haha, and a lot of them. Whilst we'll be fleshing out our weapon system with around a single weapon, showcasing how many agency and customizations we really want to put in the hands of the player. There'll still be lots of different guns of many different types that you can rip, tear, and rend with chipsets into the perfect weapon of how you want to play. Hey, Stoic, thank you so much for that. 10 gifted subs. Stoic, you're the man. The same extends to your suit as Vanguard, upgrading various subsystems and components to fit you out for the type of experiences that you might be deploying down to, a resource run, or if you just want to show off, or, you know, laser your comrades with the cutting tool. So we have some video where I'm not sure what they're showing off there, but hold on. So there we see a war barge shooting down at something. So there's two war barges. We can see that, like, there's one there, and the war barges are shooting each other. This is very reminiscent of Dust 514, by the way. We also have this one, which has this strange box, which I'm not sure what it's supposed to mean, or, like, I'm not sure what they're showing off here, besides the fact that they've got new looks for the boxes. Closing thoughts. It has only been a year since we announced the Vanguard, and already been quite the journey. We're a small team with big ambitions, and we resolute in building towards a shared vision for Vanguard. But we know that we've prioritized and chosen to build out for you so far in our major feature release has showcased the game that we are trying to build, the universe that we want to impact, and the types of experiences that we want players to have with a gun in their hand. We get there with your help, as we have only gotten to where we are now with it. building this alongside the community as we set out when we first announced Vanguard. I'll repeat what I wrote up about the whole what Vanguard is, because it's how we win and part of the challenge as to how we make Vanguard a success. We're not building a single experience, a single mode of play. We're building a playground. We're building the tools to allow you to create your own goals, write your own stories, and have an impact on New Eden. And one day, be part of the record-breaking stories that had us so exciting to be part of the universe in the first place. Cool. And then there's this 9-minute long video.
Welcome, Vanguard, to another show and tell, this time for October 2024. Right now, the team are hard at work, deep within a milestone, developing content that we will get out to players as part of our public playtest in November this year. In the last GSM and the last show and tell, we talked about a lot of the content that we wanted to make, or were going to make. But now, on behalf of myself and the team, we'd like to show you some of the content that we've been developing thus far. And also, showing you some of the reactions that we've been getting from our VIPs within our community that have had a peek behind the curtain and played some of the content that we have been developing. But before that, let's get you logged in and synchronized, shall we?
It's interesting. Hold on. I wonder if they got feedback from a lot of players that they don't want to play a BR style game, and they're open the door to leaning away from just being that. BR. I don't know what a BR style game is. I hope they give us orbital strikes from dust. Yeah, there was also there was a video from last time of them shooting from the ground like a big ion cannon at the war barge. Vanguard, the game no one asked for. Oh, a lot of people. Oh, Battle Royale. No, these aren't Battle Royale style games. If anything, these are extraction shooters. Like, it's close to an extraction shooter. It's definitely not a Battle Royale. There's no shrinking map or anything. But yeah, no, there's actually been a lot of push for a first-person shooter. Dust 514 was pretty successful, and it particularly was successful in bringing in different demographics. Imagine if they spent this much time and resources finishing things that they had started or abandoned, or overhauling things like the mission system. The mission system is a very hard thing to overhaul because of the fact that a lot of people like it exactly the way it is, which is why they create new features. And also, these are very, very different teams. That's these are different teams. Missions have been augmented with both the Abyss and Home Guard, for sure. Or Homefronts, yeah. Homefronts and Abyss. Like, if you wish that missions were more interesting, then, like, the Abyss is there.
Once logged in and synchronized, Vanguard players will have access to the star map, an early version of this present in build here. From here, players will select a deployment, browsing through systems and planets throughout the universe to choose to deploy down to. In November, these planets will be made up of variations of the Carrion and Solstice maps that we developed in First Strike and Solstice respectively, both in the game together for the first time. But in these variances, players will find different gameplay experiences, from the resources that they find, the activities that they can carry out, even the types of enemies or the makeup of enemies that they'll find. Some instances will be harder on the player, some will be kinder. And across these variants will be strong aesthetic differences to make them stand out and play differently from one another. Like the stormy monsoon that is taking place on a variant of Solstice.
What's up? I mean, as we've talked about this quite a bit before, and I don't necessarily want to rehash
seeing
all
a
of the
familiar
arguments.
map in a new light, in a day variant of Carrion.
I expected it to be much further along. So did I. But as they point out, they have a small team, and development takes a long time. That's just how it works.
Which has in turn made the night variants of Carrion a much more different and dangerous foe.
It's just a lot of people aren't
But
used to
combat is far more
having
rife
access to a
than
game
it
this
was
early.
before. But under the cover of darkness, there is the opportunity to carry out some more illicit activities.
That's cool. So there's going to be things at
With
night.
the creation
that
of
aren't at
these
day.
map variants, it's given us an opportunity to revisit some of the more placeholder aspects from previous releases and give them a bit of a glow up. You may have seen in one of the clips before that we've taken the skyhook and remodeled it.
Oh, I'm going to push back real hard on that, Savros, because a whole ton of development happened during Scarcity. It just, A, wasn't very sexy, and or B, wasn't very popular because there were things that needed to happen, like a complete rework on how the market works, so that way they could change the tax or the 0.01 isking, or the complete redo of the industry system and of the ore distribution system, and the like a lot of stuff came out during that time. It just wasn't popular or sexy because it was infrastructure that they felt was necessary to keep things stable and sustainable long term. So, I mean, the thing is that you say that there's a content drought during that time. You realize that the entirety of Invasions happened during Scarcity, right? Like the entirety of Chapter 3 was Scarcity. Now you could say that the year after Pochfin was formed was kind of a dull year, but even then we had Shadow War and other stuff like that. So back-end development is not seen that often. And again, the problem is that the features that took the most work weren't popular. So, and they knew that they weren't popular. These were medicine, not candy. So yeah, a lot of them came out with very little fanfare and a lot of consternation. It's becoming more common now to have long-running. I mean, this is early access. This is nothing shy. Like here, okay. You know, when you pull out one of the two guns that you have, and it is a stand-in graphic with default colors and lines on it, you should just be like, oh, I'm in an early access game. Like, yes, I would love it if Vanguard was ready later this year. I thought it was further along too. I thought it was too. But I still appreciate the fact that we're in on it so early. It will hopefully pay off in the end. Yeah, and here's the thing. They never suggested it was anything besides the earliest of access. It was us implying that they were further along based on, well, they must be. It's been years. But, like, they spent a lot of time having ideas and having to scrap them as they worked towards where they were going.
Making it from the placeholder we had before into something that looks more grand and spectacular. One of the other things that we've replaced are the jettisoned pods. These were very placeholder models that were strewn throughout the map for players to interact with. Now they've had a full art pass, including the pod itself and the habitant inside. The gameplay is rather similar in how players still interact with the jettisoned pods. As you can see, stylistically, it looks much, much better.
See, that would be a good place to get encrypted infomorphs, right?
One of the things that we've been able to have during this release that we hadn't had before is a group of VIPs from our community. This is a special group of players that we've built a bond with and got to sign a strict legal agreement that we can show them behind the curtain. We can show them the content that we're making that will go out to the public later in the year and get their early thoughts and comments on some of that content. We've got them reacting to things like the aesthetic changes to our environment that you've just seen, but also a prototype that we've been working on that will go out to players later this year, our Insurgency map variant. This is a 9v9 team-based skirmish, where teams will fight for control over orbital cannons that are fighting off MCCs in orbit. The outcome of this skirmish will have direct ties to insurgencies happening in EVE Online, generating corruption or suppression depending on who the winning team was.
That sounds cool.
I won't be able to do any justice to the excitement and commentary we got from players as they were reacting to this content, a lot of the time without a lot of introduction, so I'm going to show you some clips of how they got on.
We've ended up
Yo, that
on...
looks sick.
Oh, I played this earlier, but without audio.
Ooh. Oh, I like that.
There's a storm.
Ooh, I like that.
I like that ship flying by.
Holy spot on.
It looks like a giant shield.
It's because it is.
Oh, it's a drill.
It's like a giant gun.
Oh, it's
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Dude, drop it.
Yeah.
Drop the orbital strike.
You made it finally working.
Do it now. I want to see it. Ah!
Oh.
Here we go.
Dude, I want to play so bad.
Well,
Guess that's the gun firing, is it?
Do we strike the MCC or something else?
Oh, it is. It's angled.
Oh, it
Look
works.
up.
It
look
is.
at that.
It
If you look
is.
at this,
There we go.
it's reorientated.
Okay.
Oh, what?
Oh, I see.
That,
Oh, of course we're
Maybe
going
I can.
against the Galente.
I think that's...
Oh, dude, this is insane.
Oh, that's a lot of red.
I love this.
Yeah, those are all red.
That's bombs or nades.
Oh my
Grenades.
God, there's so many of you!
Revenge.
There's like 4 of you. What do we...
Yeah, buddy, look at that.
That's the 9v9.
My team, my team. How are you doing, my team? My team, I'm with you. I am
Behind
with
us, on the hill.
you. Yeah. Loads of fun. Fun. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, please, grenades.
Bang, bang.
No.
Grenades are like the thing I've been asking. Wow, that's too many grenades. That says on the screen, grenades spam will be fixed. But I've been begging for grenades
Okay, no, we just... hang on.
since the
We
very
need
first time I
reds
jumped into
down
Vanguard.
here. No, red is down here. No, come back. I haven't taken a screenshot yet. I need them. There's 2. This. Oh my god.
This isn't even touching the surface of a lot of the content that we're making and that will be packaged in the release that goes out to players in November. One of the key major components of the loop you haven't even seen here yet, which is manufacturing. It's going to be a large part of the release and is going into the build very, very soon. We really hope what you've seen so far and that you're really pleased with the progress that we're making. On behalf of myself and everyone on the team that's working on all of this content that you've seen and more, a big thank you. We can't wait to show you more, and to play us out is a track made for Vanguard by our lead sound designer Alexis. This is Elastic Consciousness.
That does sound cool. So, like, here's the thing about that. This actually reinforces what I was saying earlier, right? Like, they just said, oh, we haven't even showed you the industry stuff. They completely left out the industry stuff. Just like they completely left out how we're going to build the ships. Just like they completely left out how we were going to build the mercenary dens. Just like they completely left out how like what kind of sites the mercenary dens are going to spawn, or how anarchy actually works, or how any of this is going to happen. And this comes out in November, which is this month, right? So I'm not saying that there's more to it than what they've already announced to us. I'm saying that there is a hole in what they have announced to us. There is we have a known there is known unknowns that paint a picture. There's a central core to all of this that has to do with the Deathless and that leads to the mercenary dens, the new ships, the Vanguard changes, all this stuff. And I think that tomorrow, if you're watching this live, tomorrow is when a lot of this is going to kick off with, of course, the beginning of the expansion next week being like the big piece to this. Just like how Havoc ushered in First Strike for Vanguard. The problem for me is FPS shooter is that being far from US and EU servers, my latency is horrible to play in FPS. EVE is not too problematic with high latency. I don't think that it's going to be necessary for everyone to be in the shooter, but it will be necessary for your group to consider that angle of things, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't have to be you. You could be one of the EVE guys. But you don't get to just ignore it. With the final theme drop comes blah, 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 blah. Questions. Yep. Okay, great. So that's it for Vanguard for now. And hopefully we'll know more about, again, how all this pieces together tomorrow. Now then. I'm an old tester in a previous year. Doesn't look that far off, just assets. Yeah, I agree, Stoic. Especially when you consider the fact that it's made in Unreal. And so it's like, Unreal is very modular. So it kind of encourages you to kit batch, you know, like just throw together the basic stuff and then replace those with customized bits when the time comes. You don't need to play all of the games. You can pick and choose which game to play. Okay. Anyone else? Comments, questions, concerns? What is your thoughts about Vanguard? Otherwise, I want to move on. Okay. Check it out, guys. I'm very excited about this. Where are we? Shit, where are we? Oh no! Where am I? I need to clean up my I need to clean up my scene. I have too much stuff. It's hard to find which one is the right one. Okay, so guys, check it out. I figured it out. I figured it out. Oh, that's too far forward. Check it out, guys. Here's my phone. No more blue stacks. I'm so happy. So now I can show you this. Check this out. This is the animation that I was trying to show you last time. I know it's stupid. Look. Get over it. I have fun things to show. Like, look at that. Look at that transition. Look at that transition. Oh, so smooth. Look at that animation. I can go wee, woo, woo, wee, woo. Like, that is... As a guy who worked on Android for a long time, like, I am super impressed by that, okay? Whoever made that whoever made this transition, so you can transition from this map to this interface seamlessly like this, I commend you. All right, sorry, that's my moment. All right, so we are... I'm going to kind of catch you guys up with where we're at, and then I do have kind of a guide I want to do real quick. Hopefully we can cut it out to make it into a thing for people. But, so where we're at right now, we are now, what, like a week into this campaign? I just completed... my Sharp Mine Booster Factory here. You can see, basically, each level of the headquarters unlocks different structures that have all kinds of cool abilities. But for the purposes of finishing my quests, I'm going back and making sure to get all my boosters going, which Tranquil does your kind of your tactics, which is sort of your defensive stat. Impact is offense, which is your offensive stat. Sharp Mind is data rate, which is like your speed. And then that's an assembly ray. That's different. Yeah, that's what I was working on right now. I do have 5 fleets, although some of them are kind of hurt right now. My 2 big fleets are at the front lines. This is our major front line right here. You can see that the enemy has taken this structure here and fortified it pretty heavy. They have a few guys with pretty big fleets, so we've been having to team up in order to take on some of them, except for our more powerful people. But we're also cutting them off at this gate, and then hopefully on... oh, nope, they took back this gate. Because it would be nice if we could stop them from taking this, but we will see. Yeah, it does look like they're starting to try to get ready to go after that. And that's one of the cool things about this. It is a real-time strategy game that like takes place over, you know, days and whatnot. Like some people were complaining. I saw some people complaining about the timers of stuff. But like once you understand, once you get really involved in the meta aspect of it, it's kind of good that it takes a little bit of time to do stuff. Yeah, this morning we took this structure here, which brings our corporation to 13 structures. You can see in the ratings, which people can still join us, by the way. You go to Corp. We are the 5th Corp after the first 4 got into Lowsec first. And 13th Legion is the group that we were in Highsec with, and they're now like kind of stomping on everything, which is fair and fun. My favorite fleet is I can't really... Yeah, I can. Hold on. Click on her, then go into here. Check out my fleets. There we go. So this is my main fleet. I have Men's Repala and his daughter, Emil, running around in a Corax. But yeah. At any rate, I bring this on to you guys because I want to talk to you about a little bit about a guide. For those of you who have decided to try to check it out, there have been people that have been checking out my previous video on Eve Galaxy Conquest, where I kind of do effectively kind of a let's play of early game. But stomping. Are you talking about? Are you from 13th Legion? Because my understanding is that 13th Legion is giving the Imperium a really hard time. But yeah. Any rate. Oh, nice. 13th Legion has actually been pretty cool to work with, honestly. Oh, yeah? Your old neighbor? Hey, small cluster. All right. So, today I want to circle back a little bit on Eve Galaxy Conquest and teach kind of some of the fundamentals for people to understand. And because I like to teach them how to fish rather than just give people like bit by bit instructions, I want to talk a little bit about how really fleets come together in Eve Galaxy Conquest. In a fleet is kind of composed of 3 separate components. You have the ship, you have the pilots, and you have the squads. These are related to each other, and they go together to kind of control how things work. But we're going to look at these pieces one at a time. First, we're going to look at the ships. Hold on. Hold on. Apparently... Apparently my Discord decided to make noise even though it's supposed to be... Why am I not in streaming mode? Hold on. Okay. Is that the 13th Legion? Am I missing something? Either way. Okay. So. Hold on. Yeah, 13th Legion and Imperium. The Imperium was the red. Yeah, the 13th Legion has them completely surrounded. All right. So, to begin with, we are going to look at our ships. Now, both ships and pilots have a lot of things in common, or at least their own version of the same thing. The first thing to point out when it comes to ships is you got to give up what you know about the ships when it comes to their relative power in EVE Online. That usually doesn't correspond too much in EVE Galaxy Conquest. And also things like the ship size. It's not like battleships are better than frigates. You know, the Dramiel can be just as good as the Caracal, or even could be better than the Bellicose, or you know, some of the other epics, because one of the things that they do to justify this is to say, okay, well, if it's a frigate, then there's 5 of them per squad, whereas if it's a cruiser, there's only 3 per squad. If there's a battleship, there's only 1 per squad. This is not actually important information for you as a player. Just realize that they've kind of abstracted it to say, okay, well, like a legendary ship is a legendary ship, an epic ship is an epic ship. So look at those as indicators as to how powerful it is. Not like, oh, well, battleships are better, they have more power than frigates. That isn't necessarily true. Also, that doesn't necessarily mean that a battleship is slower than a frigate, right? Like this battleship has a data rate of 64, where this Algos has a data... Wait, no, that's not a good example. This Worm has a data rate of 59. So the Worm is slower than the Maelstrom. So, you know, you got to look at what the pieces are as far as in the game goes. Now, the very first thing about understanding the power levels is that unlocking a champion, unlocking a ship, unlocking a pilot by getting a copy of it is only the very beginning. You actually kind of don't want to use your ships that have like no yellow stars. And in order to upgrade a ship fully, you need to be able to upgrade its red stars, which involve strengthening which requires extra copies of that ship. So anytime that you get a ship or a pilot that you've already gotten, you instead get 20 tokens for it, a blueprint or a data sheet, I think it is, for a pilot. And those can be used to upgrade, to promote, or to strengthen that ship or pilot, giving you red stars. Now, the amount that is required as you level up goes up. And a good rule of thumb is that the break-even, or like the big point of turning point for power, is 3 red stars, both for pilots and for ships. But really, each red star, as far as ships go, each red star unlocks extra capabilities of their modules, right? So like this ship has 4 modules and 3 red stars. So you can see like the combat drones here, how it has a little Tech 2 in the upper left-hand corner. And so does the neutralizing pulse projector and the annihilation beam. Well, the weakness scanner doesn't have a little Tech 2 next to it, because I only have 3 red stars and not a 4th red star, right? If I had 4, the 4th red star would unlock that last weakness, that last Tech 2. And it isn't actually Tech 2. If you look at the actual item itself, what you're unlocking here is this mutaplasmid effect. So the fact that I have this red star here, you can see that the default tool here is that this is a barrage skill, which I believe barrage is the same as an assault weapon. This deals 1 extra attack to the target after initiating direct fire. The direct fire is the normal attack for the turn, and it has a damage rate. But then it has a plasmid effect of deal more damage if the target fleet has lost more than 50% of the ship's squads, influenced by the number of lost ship squads, at most 50% increased damage. So what that means is that because this is at the 3rd red star, if I'm hitting a target that has less than 50% of its health left, this thing does currently 50%, yeah, 50% additional damage. So you both got your first and didn't know that they had Eve Galaxy Conquest ads? Oh gosh. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. So reading these abilities and what they do is part of the key point to understanding the game, like to being decent at the game. Now, hold on. Go to site. Danny helpfully linked this page, which is the Eve Galaxy Conquest keywords. There is no in-game list of all keywords. Hold on. So I decided to make one. So with this page, which she linked, if you go there, you'll find every keyword that is said in the game. So like for instance, here it says combat drone. I can click on combat drone and it says combat drone inflicts direct damage to a random enemy wing each turn and lowers its armor. So I can go back to browse and see combat drone, and then that's what it does. And then I also posted which ship and or pilot has that keyword, just in case, like, oh, I need to find somebody with decoder error. Well, here's all the characters with decoder error, right? So that's a tool, that's a resource for you. I should probably link. I'm going to put it in the comments too, or in the description down below. In a bit, hopefully afterwards. I don't know. If you're watching this not live and it's not down there, yell at me. So then I put it down there. Anywho, so a ship will have a number of modules based on its rarity, right? So if we go down here and we see this, this green ship, the Emperor, the Corvette, has only one ability, right? It's just unlocked by default. Boom, Gatling pulse laser. Deals kinetic damage to a single enemy wing. Now we can already look at this and see, like, okay, well, this is an active ability, which just makes it kind of a normal ability. And it has a trigger chance of 50%. So that means that during the Imperator's turn, it will initiate its normal direct fire, and then 50% of the time, it will also use this ability. Okay? That's all that means. And everything is either a passive or there's a trigger chance. And the trigger chance is just the chance that it happens in any given turn, or when it's supposed to be triggered. Blues have two different abilities. So in this case, we have the Nosferatu Energy Beam, which deals damage with a mutaplasmid effect of whenever it deals damage, restores 10% hit points to the number of damage dealt. So literally a lifesteal like effect. And then it also has the Disillusion Array, which deals damage with the mutaplasmid effect of when it does deal damage, it has a 50% chance to inflict the target with a repair disabled, which basically means that it can't be healed for one turn each time it deals damage. So this thing has a 45% chance to trigger. So on any given turn, it has a 45% chance to hit. And if it does hit, then it has a 50% chance of applying this repair disabled. So on any given turn, you have approximately about 23% chance of applying repair disabled on any given turn just from the Kruger itself. Likewise, I think we can come here. Nope. Do I have anything that doesn't have the second one unlocked yet? No. Okay. Purples, epics have 3. Hold on. Epics have 3 modules to unlock. You get one of them for free. Oh, nope. I'm dumb. Okay, great. But, and here's the critical thing. Let's go to the incursus here. This is how kind of it starts out. Now, obviously, I already have red stars, but I haven't unlocked its modules yet. I can look at the modules, but I can't put anything in it. And if I want to activate it, I have to pay 40 tokens, purple tokens, in order to unlock it. Now, these tokens, there's 2 different kinds. There's these generic ones that you get for doing missions and other rewards. But then, remember how I said every time you unlock a duplicate, you get 20 of their little tokens? You can see that these are tokens for other champions and things that I have. So, you know, I've opened a duplicate Algos right now, and so I have 10 extra Algoses. However, if I go look at the Algos, I'd really like to finish his red stars, and in order to promote it, I need 5 more Algoses to even promote it 1 more bit of a red star, and I need 4 more bits to finish my 4th red star. So I don't want to use these 10 blueprints on just unlocking things, even though I really want to be able to unlock things. So here's part of the concern. Now, when it comes to permanent progress, the things that stay in between seasons is these red stars and these unlocked modules. Not what levels you put into them, but the fact that you have unlocked them. So both of the pieces that require these doodads to unlock in one way or another are the things that stay in between seasons. Now, once they are unlocked, like in this Dramiel, you can see I can continue to level them up. You know, it's not enough to just unlock them. They have 15 levels each, and each level costs ISK to level them up. This gets completely reset each expansion. So you get to keep the red stars, you get to keep what modules are unlocked, but you do not get to keep anything that you bought with your ISK, okay? The next piece that's noteworthy, So, in order for a ship to be fully usable, it's not just good enough to have it, right? Like this Caracal, actually, a better example. Nope. This Catalyst is a very good ship. It's a legendary ship, but I can't really bring it to bear. If I put a pilot in it right now, it would kind of suck. You can see it has an overall power on this side of 384, whereas, like, we could go down and look at this Bellicose. The Bellicose is a 687. So you're telling me this Epic is almost twice as powerful as this Legendary? Well, not twice as powerful, but 2/3, whatever. Yes, it is. And the reason why is because this ship has nothing unlocked. It's like, you know, you could have the best ship in the game, but if you have it half fit and you can't turn on half the modules, then it's going to be toast. So in order to be able to unlock this stuff, and this is the biggest problem, here's the biggest secret. Legendaries, especially as a newer player, especially as a free-to-play player, legendaries are kind of trap, okay? As a newer player, you should always... Yes, stars are what build... Yeah, we already went into the stars making the modules Tech 2, i.e. mutaplasmids. As a newer player, as a free-to-play player, the good epics that you have are probably going to be stronger than your legendaries. And even if you have, like, you will probably have enough resources to power up most of your epics pretty broadly, but legendary resources are really, you know, not a commodity. What's the word? A premium. Whatever. They're rarer. So, and you need more of them. Like, so if I wanted to unlock this module, I could unlock it with purples. That's great. And I can unlock it with 40 purples. That's fine. And then this one, though... Oh, I can't unlock it until I have the other one. Hold on. Do I have any one where... I don't have any where the third one needs to be unlocked, but not the fourth. Or whatever. Either way, if I skip to the fourth one, you'll see that the fourth one requires 40 legendary tokens. And so, you know, this either has to be a duplicate legendary that I got, which could have gone to promoting them, or, you know, legendary tokens, which are at a premium. So there's not enough of them to do everything you want with them. So you got to pick and choose which ships you unlock, right? That initial Vexor is strong, but I have a Breacher and Stratios that are potentially better. Exactly. If you have invested into a good epic, you know, you're going to see, like, this Corax is 688 power versus this Caracal, which is 439. Even this, like, the Dramiel is 710 because this Dramiel is actually decked out, right? I've got 3 red stars. I've got everything unlocked. Everything's leveled up to at least level 8. You know, that's more powerful. This is 730. Once again, 3 red stars, everything unlocked. These are even leveled up even more. Level 10 to level 20, or 12 rather. This is 525. 3 red stars, epic, but only the one thing unlocked. Now, why is this in my mainline ships when it's so much weaker than these other ones? Well, that leads into the other piece to all of this, which is a big key to how you build your fleets, which is the formations. Now, every fleet has to have a formation. I want to say all gold ships with unlocks and max stars there's a base 1k power. That's probably true. Or that sounds like it's... Wouldn't doubt it. Okay, so we have Assault, Encirclement, Phalanx, Intercept, and Siege. So these are the 4, like the main 4 are Assault, Encirclement, Phalanx, and Intercept. And as we can see, it's like a rock, paper, scissors situation, but with all 4 of them, right? So we have Assault is highly effective against Encirclement. Encirclement is highly effective against Defense. Defense is highly effective against Intercept, and Intercept is highly effective against Assault. Now, one of the problems with this that people have been running into is that, while you're going after level 1 through 3 sites, you can scan it and see what the enemy is and bring a counter. But with a lot of PvE, they stack a bunch of fleets, and the different fleets can have different formations. And in fact, I suspect that they are, for the most part, designed to counter the formation that you're supposed to bring, right? So if you scout out a thing and you see that it's an encirclement, so you bring an assault, chances are they're going to bring an intercept as a second fleet. So that way, if you bring that assault to counter their first fleet, their second fleet counters you. Now, that's not always the case, but just realize that you can't scout anything past the first fleet. So when you're doing PvE past, like, the very, very bare bones, a lot of this fleet formation stuff starts to fall apart. Now, when you're fighting against enemies, like other players, because they can only have the single fleet, like, that's when it becomes really, really, really critical to, have, once you can get good information on your enemy and bring the correct weapon to bear, it has a large impact on victory versus failure and how much it costs you, right? Intercept and Assault are the 2 most common formations. That's true. Now, the 5th one is Siege. Siege is different. Siege is only for when you're attacking a structure and you have what's called a siege fleet, right? Siege throws out all of the normal combat mechanics. Siege only happens when all of the normal combat fleets have already been beaten and all that's left is the structure. And so, whereas normally there's the whole, like, phases and turns and fighting and all that stuff, Siege just does 1 hit each time. So we can see here, if I go back to Siege mode, if I look at this ship here, this Corax, this is a very, very strong ship. I love it. It's a great fleet, and it's encirclement. So, but if I decide to hit a structure with it, it will only do 150 siege damage, okay? Each cycle. So every 3 minutes, it's going to cost me 15 stamina, and will do 150 damage to the structure, which is not a lot. Meanwhile, this ship, that bare bones ship that doesn't have any weapons, right? When it cycles, it's going to do 434 damage to the structure. So almost 2.5 or almost 3 times as much damage as the non-siege fleet. The reason why is because I have a siege specialized ship in the Algos, a siege specialized pilot in Karen Midgeler, and in Thrumgar. All 3 of them are siege, so I get this extra 15% bonus to siege. If I was able to get them to all be one faction, I could get the faction bonus too. And then on top of that, in my ship, I have rigs, which rigs are a way to improve your ships. Every ship and every pilot gets 3. And each individual rig improves your ship by a certain amount. Like this one right here increases its firepower by 1.5%, and its energy by 0.5%. This one does energy by almost 1% and hit points by 0.5%. Faction bonus does nothing to siege. Thank you. So, but because I have all 3 of these modules, all 3 of these rigs are siege rigs, then I get a set bonus. So that way this increases my siege damage by 60. So that is why, and I think, does she have? Nope. Does he have? Nope. I could have siege implants in too, I think. Is there siege implants? Either way. So this ship is designed... no, only rigs. Okay, great. So this ship is designed to come... No, yes, maybe, who knows. This ship is designed to go in after the main fleet goes in. Now, this has a couple of major drawbacks, okay? First and foremost, as you can see here, as you can see in this chart, everything is good at siege. You are weak against everything. So no matter who you're going up against, you're going to do 15% less damage to them. They're going to do 15% more damage to you, okay? And to make it worse, when you're sieged, you travel at only half the speed across land. So it's going to take twice as much time for your siege ships to get anywhere. And if your siege ships try to run away, enemy fleets can actually catch up and overcome and blow up your siege ships. So siege ships are very vulnerable, but they're the main hitters against the actual structure itself. And most importantly, the overall strength of the ship itself doesn't really matter, right? The amount of power behind this fleet doesn't really matter, because if I actually have to fight something, I'm just going to lose. This thing is just designed to, I kill everything else and then bring this thing in and it batters them down, right? If this thing has to defend itself, I'm already dead. So that's kind of neat. And all of the other, like a lot of the other combat mechanics, like capacitor, don't really play into it either. The only thing that really matters is stamina, because you still need to have enough stamina to do each turn. So overall, when it comes to a ship, what you've got is you've got the modules, you have the red stars, and you have its formations. Now you also have its stats, but those are pretty identifiable. You just tap on them to see what they are. You've got the HP, the firepower. Energy is how much energy damage and repair amount it can deal. Data rate is how fast it is. Armor is like a damage mitigation stat, right? It resists against firepower, more or less, or it reduces incoming damage. Okay, and then on top of that, you have your modules, which your modules can unlock, and they can be leveled up. That is effectively your ship. Now, as you can see in your fleet can have 2 pilots. You have a main pilot, and you have a main commander and a deputy commander. The main commander is important because of their primary stats of offense and tactics. Offense, as you can see, basically increases your commander's talents effects to provide damage bonus while assigned as lead commander. So the offensive stat for the lead commander functions as a buff for the entire fleet. Likewise, the tactics stat functions as a defensive stat for the entire fleet, okay? But then each commander has their own data rate, just like the ship has its own data rate. Likewise, just like ships, pilots have to unlock their skills. Now you can see, like, this skill To unlock it requires epic pieces because it's her first unlock. But if I went to... Nope, he's got it all unlocked. Yeah, but if I go to his third, you'll see that it requires 40 legendaries to unlock. So in order to unlock a legendary's skills, you will need 40 epic pieces and 40 legendary pieces just to unlock the skills. And then, of course, all of the duplicates to power up the red stars. Now, in this case, the red stars give you... one of the biggest cutoffs for red stars is 3 stars, because it leads to this, which is squad capacity 300 and stamina of 20. That additional stamina means that you can take an additional action before you have to recharge, which is really good. Now, you can see that these stats, like the commander itself, so we can read their abilities. Like her number 1, gain reactive repair for the first 3 turns, 30% to repair your wings. So she plays his reactive repair, which basically means that if you take hits, it automatically triggers a repair. And she also does, on her second ability, she removes debuffs from your wings and repairs them. And then for the first 3 turns, reduces your wings receive damage by 11.7%. So, I think if you're playing for the long run, depending on your pulls, is it worth it to somewhat to upgrade at least the ship or the stars, the ship modules, because it carries over to the next game? Well, I think that when it comes to ships, I think that it's a lot easier than with pilots. That what you should do is find the 4 or 5 ships that you're going to use, right? You're going to want a ship that can provide at least one of each of the different formations. And the siege ships aren't necessarily as important. Your siege ships can be kind of left behind a little bit. But the key here is that when it comes to your ships, you want to specialize. You can't unlock everything on everything. But the kicker is that while pilots are limited by their stamina, right? Pilots have a certain amount of stamina. Like this guy has 120 stamina. If he had 3 red stars... like this, like her, you would have 140 stamina because that's what this command matrix does. Or if they have full red stars, oh no, never mind, 5 red stars. If you have 5 red stars, it gives you even more, but I don't have a Lego at 5 stars. But I digress. The point is that this stamina, when you first start out, I think it only takes like 7 or 8 stamina per move. But after the first few days, it's now 15 stamina per action taken. So this is a lot like energy in other games, but the stamina is per pilot. So what that means is that like you can go and do a bunch of stuff with a pair of pilots, exhaust them, bring them home, and then swap them out for different pilots in the same ship and send them back out to go do more work. So having a lot of pilots at your disposal is advantageous. Because, you know, you can do different things with them. You can swap them out. You can put them in training, whatever. But ships don't get exhausted. Ships don't get tired. You know, you can keep on using them. So it's worth picking your favorite ships and, like, specializing them. Now, remember, at any given time with these things, you can always reset them. Right? Down here below, there's enhancement reset. This is true about pilots. This is true about ships. So if you want, you can always, like, if you've committed into a ship and you don't like what you've committed to, you can always pull out all of the resources that you put into it and put it into a different ship. So don't think that this is like, don't get nervous about it. Like, oh God, I'm going to put all my stuff into this Algos and then immediately pull a better ship, you know. But the point is that you want to make sure that the ships that you use are as good as they can be, and ships that you're not using, don't invest in. So what carries over to the next season is the ship's unlocks and the ship's stars and stuff. So yes, like if you've unlocked all your weapons and you unlocked all your stars, that is why, honestly, I've focused a lot of my effort and Nova credits into pulling more pilots and ships, because I need the duplicates so I can upgrade the ships, because that's what matters as far as long-term progression. So yeah, like I have been focusing on long-term progression over like instanced progression this iteration, and that involves prioritizing red stars and unlocks. Okay. Back to pilots though. I think long-term, I need to look at the ship modules, because honestly, those are the most expensive from an ISK perspective. Yes, it's true. Leveling up your modules on your ship is probably the single largest ISK sink in the game right now. It's like the biggest ISK. The ISK cost to upgrade your modules makes almost every other ISK cost look basically trivial. Like, oh, 3,000 ISK to do this production line. Or 40,000 ISK to bring this up by 1 level. Oh, look, I have to level it up 5 times. So, like, yeah, like, what the fuck is 6,000 ISK when this thing requires 120,000 to level up to the next stage? Only them being unlocked does anything for you at the end of the season. You don't want to pick max upgrade ships, do the rest of the millions. Which, by the way, this means pro tip. One of the questions that I keep on being asked or keep on seeing is, how do you use Nova credits? And it's really hard for me to fully answer that. And even last time I kind of jokingly said, I don't know if like opening up stuff is the best use of Nova credits. And it's because it's obviously pretty expensive way of using Nova credits at 1,880 Nova credits per 5 pull, right? But that's the permanent upgrades. A lot of the, like, most of the efficient ways of using Nova credits, speeding up your construction times, unlocking extra action points, all that stuff, none of that survives through the season. So if you buy things that actually carry over, that costs a lot of Nova credits. But things that do not carry over, things that quote unquote waste Nova credits in the long run, yeah, sure, that's going to be easy. So, 10 Nova credits here, 30 Nova credits there is going to go a long ways when it comes to like this iteration's progress. Whereas, the 1880 Nova credits that you put in, that's the stuff that's going to stick around and eventually will be what powers you up in the long run. So which one of those you should prioritize at any given time? All I'm going to say is that this game is a snowball game. So little things that increase your production, like if you can use a little bit of Nova credits to level up your headquarters early, or level up your refineries early, just so you can put in the next level and the next level and the next level, like right now, like that is actually going to do you a lot of good in this iteration. And of course, the better you do during the iteration, the more rewards you unlock over time, which will eventually feed back into unlockables like Nova credits that allow you to like progress in the meta context. So it's a balancing game for sure. I haven't found anything that makes me feel really bad for spending Nova credits on, to be honest. One of the things I do recommend, though, is that every time you get a chance, once you have your market leveled up, you can go into the market and go into your resource thing and look for good sales. Because, like, you're going to want to use Plex to speed things up anyways, because things take a long time to wait to level it up. And, like, that time that you're leveling up is time that you're not building something else. So, if you're going to use Plex to speed things up anyways, grabbing them at 20% off, 25% off, 50% off when they're in these places, it's worth picking them up, especially since buying things in the market also progress you on the event track. There's several of these that tell you to go buy stuff from the market. I love the progression in this game. Yeah. Okay, so you can use the universal things to promote commanders. The hardest thing to get is red stars. Oh yeah, that does remind me, there is actually a token that you can get. These are usually premium, but you can get them elsewhere too, which are these legendary data chips. These things are gold. You know why? Because these are, I just said, you need red stars in order to make things good. You need to pull extra copies in order to get the stuff, in order to upgrade the legend star. You have a trade center? Yeah, you got to keep building stuff, man. So what these things do is you can turn these into any legendary blueprint, right? So that's actually why I have a 2-star men's Repola, right? Like, this guy, I didn't get 3 men's. I've gotten 2 men's. No, I've gotten 1 men's. I've just thrown every single legendary data chip I have at leveling his stars up because I love him. So, you know, those do exist and are worth keeping an eye out for. Those are probably more valuable than gold, to be honest. Okay, so back to the champion. We have a set of skills. Now, actually, hold on. How do you use the gold chips? Oh, when you go, like, let's say I wanted to level up his stars, right? I go and level up his stars. I go to promote him. Oh, you don't have enough chips. I can hit this plus sign, and that allows me to convert 1-to-1 the things into blueprints. Now, here's the stinker, okay? This conversion is permanent, okay? So if I take all of my legendary data chips and I turn them all into men's Repola data sheets, and then I use them to promote men's all the way up, and then later on decide, well, that was a mistake, and I want to wipe him out to reset him, I don't get the legendary data chips back. I get men's Repola data chips because I've converted them over. You don't apply empty data chips, you convert them first. So this is the thing that can't be undone in the process. Now, even if I did do that, and let's say I didn't want men's Repola, would I just be stuck? Well, no, I could use those sheets to unlock a legendary module or talent for a different champion, but I wouldn't be able to convert them back into legendary data chips, so that way I could put them into a different legendary to get their red stars up. Okay? So that's something to keep in mind when it comes to that. Theoretically speaking, these exist for epics too, but I don't have any of those. All my epics just say, no, screw you, you don't have them. See, I can tap here and it says insufficient items. That's how to use those. Okay. So if we go down here, we can see here, a green character has 3 skills, no choices about it. A blue character, 3 skills, no choices about it. An epic has 3 skills, but the 3rd skill has 2 choices based on one of them unlocking when you get 2 red stars. Okay? Let's go away from one of the crappiest people in the entire New Eden. He's not a bad pilot, he's just a bad person. Same with him. Do I have anybody? So, because she has her he's also a bad commander? Well, fair enough. Waste them all on Santa Mona. Oh, all their legendary data chips? Oh, I would not do that. I would not do that. Okay. So we can see, like, let's just look at Amelie first, or Emile, because she's a really good pilot. Let's see why. So her number 1 is a passive. All passives have a trigger chance of 100%. So this thing's always happening. Now, this could be confusing because there can be something else inside of the description that is percentage-based. But the passive is always running. It's just there may be a percentage chance that something actually happens from it. In this case, it always happens. So what happens? Inflict decoder error on a random enemy commander and reduce its armor of enemy wing by 13.1%. Decoder error is a control effect that the attacker has an 80% chance to randomly select a target, friend or foe, while attacking. So, if you've ever gone into your logs, you've ever seen anything where, like, you attacked a bunch of dudes and then you died, or you took a lot more damage than you thought you were going to, you go into your logs and you're like, wait, why is my guys attacking themselves? This is why. A lot of the defense fleets out there right now have Emile as one of the pilots, which means they have decoder error, which means there is a chance of one of your wings. There's a 20% chance that your wing will shoot itself or will shoot your friendly instead of a hostile, right? Well, actually, I guess there's a 10% chance because it's a 20% chance to inflict decoder error, and a 10%, half of that time it'll attack the wrong target. Either way. And then so there's the ability, which we just read, and then there's an augmentation. This is the other part that gets people confused. The ability branches out to the augmentation. The augmentation affects the ability. It's not a second ability, okay? Like this one. When neural network attack is initiated, so that's this one, the main thing, 100% chance to of inflict repair disabled on a single enemy wing. So this puts decoder error on a random enemy wing, and this puts repair disabled on a single enemy wing. I don't know if it's the same wing or not by the wording, but you can see like these are two separate things, but this is a direct augment to this one, and you have to level them up separately. Then for our level 2, we have deals energy damage to a single enemy wing, so just a normal blap damage to a single target. However, when you augment it, you see when Ion Storm deals damage, 53% chance when maxed leveled to inflict decoder error on an enemy commander for 1 turn. Well, we already learned what decoder error does. So now she's got the basic decoder error that gets put out, and her attack also applies decoder error half the time. So now there's a second chance to get decoder error out there, get it on both the enemy squads or whatever. And then, so then for 3, we come to the choice, right? We could have deals kinetic damage to a single enemy wing with the bonus of when circuit overload deals damage, 80% chance to inflict neural shutdown, a control effect that disables active modules and talents. So in other words, it'll disable all of these right here for the enemy, as well as the modules for the enemy ships, if this hits it, for 80% of the time, okay? Now, remember, this circuit overload, because it's an attack, it's an active ability, it has only a 45% chance to trigger. So half the time, this thing will go off, and then when it hits, 80% of the time that it hits, it'll also cause a neural shutdown. So now we have decoder errors going out, decoder errors going out, and neural shutdowns happening. Okay, just tons and tons of CC. You're not going to do anything, and if you do, you might do it to your enemy, or to your own people, rather. Or the other choice is this, which is damage to all enemy wings. When initiating salvo deals damage, additionally reduce damage dealt by the target by 38% when max powered up. So this is just a defensive ability rather than trying to, well, it's a, yeah. So rather than trying to do a neural shutdown and shut down their abilities, you're instead trying to shut down their damage. It hits all of the wings instead of just one, and it reduces damage by 38%, which is a big amount. So you could spec towards maximum CC, or you can spec towards more of a defensive measure, where if this goes off, like let's say if you pair up with like a rep guy, like a repair dude, you go with this. Now she's scrambling up the enemy, so that way the enemy's attacking itself sometimes. That's doing some damage. And then she blasts this out and causes them to deal less damage, but I mean, like, that means less damage to you too, while you guys go ahead and kill them. Or you could just stick with maximum CC, right? That's kind of the choice that you have with her. And you only have one relatively simple choice on how to spec her out. Now, for a legendary, it's a little different. For a legendary, we have 2 sets of choices. One for the second skill, and the second for the third skill. Now, the second skill, much like the epic one, requires 2 red stars to unlock the alternative choice. And as you can see here, it takes 3 red stars to unlock the second choice for the third skill, okay? So once again, we can look at this and see, okay, well, so Men's Repola has a 45% chance to deal kinetic damage to the target after initiating direct fire. This is a passive, so every time the ship shoots, he has a 50%, almost half of the time when he shoots, he basically damages again, right? And 30% of the time when he does that, he also initiates neural shutdown. So he's bringing neural shutdown too, which is that one where I don't know why it's not pulling it up, but it's the one where it disables their active modules and their talents. Okay, so every other turn, like 50% of the time when it's his turn, there's a 30% chance of inflicting neural shutdown with that hit. Then his number 2, I've got 2 choices. 1, it's a passive 100%. Your wings gain a 70% rapid fire and 12.5% HP Nosferatu for your first 3 turns in battle. So what that means is when Mens Repula is in the team, 70% of the time, he's going to shoot twice instead of once. And there's going to be a 12% when I do damage, I repair based on the damage I get dealt. So I hit twice, and I heal myself with lifesteal off of my hits. Okay? In addition to that, because of the augment, we have it also reduces their armor of both sides by 11.9. So it reduces both sides' ability to deal with damage, while at the same time doing a bunch of damage. So it's kind of a gambit, right? Now remember, I have her paired with Emil. So Emil's disrupting the enemy's efforts. He's disrupting their efforts. So the goal here is that if I can shut you guys down, then lowering both of our armor is fine, because I'm more worried about the damage that's being dealt to you. You're doing reduced damage. So when you do damage to me, I'm not taking as much damage. When you're doing damage to each other, or yourself, you're also doing not as much damage. But when I'm dealing damage to you, I'm doing full damage. That's the difference, right? So that's the choice there. Now, the other choice I could have gone is with this one. Chance of triggering assassination skills by 15%, which goes up to 30%, plus deals kinetic damage to target after initiating assassination skills by 55%. So what this does is I can forego that whole rapid fire thing. Instead of firing multiple times per turn and life stealing off of it, instead I can increase the chance that I do the extra kinetic damage. So now, instead of firing twice and having a 45% chance of getting it both times, I fire only once, unless something else gives me rapid fire. But that has a 75% chance of doing this extra damage and possibly inflicting neural shutdown, and deals more kinetic damage on top of that, up to an extra 55% of my damage rate. So you've got this that's already doing almost 200% of my damage rate every, now 75%, plus an extra 55% of my damage rate. That's just a ton of damage in one giant shot, basically every single turn. And then for my third choice, or for my third skill, I get the choice between 50% chance to deal kinetic damage to the target after initiating direct fire, if the target is already affected by debuffs. So, once again, the left talent tree is focused on that rapid fire, right? I have that rapid fire. That rapid fire makes it so I do direct attack more often, which makes it more likely to trigger my assassination, and also likely to trigger my assassination shadow tactics. Now, the target has to already be affected by a debuff. That's true. But I have Emil putting out debuffs, and I have this neural shutdown putting out debuffs. Some passives are standalone, like Camille's tier 3. Hold on. Let me finish this thought, and then we'll look at that. So, and here we have the bonus thing is increasing the initiation chance. So, in this tree, I've got 2 shots, and these are independent of each other. So this would give it so that every time I shoot, I have a almost 70% chance of doing extra damage here, and a 45% damage chance to do damage there, unless I took this, in which case it's also a 70% chance to do additional damage. But if I took this, then I didn't take that, so it's only 1 shot instead of 2, etc., etc. My alternative that I could have chosen if I had 3 red stars is at max level, 30% chance to deal kinetic damage to all enemy wings after a direct fire. So the big difference there is this is a big hit, a big hit, or these, you know, to single targets, whereas this one hits everybody. So this is the AoE that hits all of the different wings, which usually there's 2 or 3 wings, because you have each pilot is its own wing, and then drones are their own wing. And then this just increases its damage. So this is just raw damage. This side is more control, because it also plays off of control. This requires control to exist in order for this side to work. So this side of things is more control oriented and about shooting faster. This side of things is more about hitting for just tons and tons of damage in a single shot with bonus damage, right? And you get to choose whichever one you want. You can reset them if you want to. But that's kind of how characters get spec'd. And then you pair these with different guys in order to build up different combos. Like I was saying, like Emil does a lot of disruption, does a lot of debuffs and such. He feeds off of those debuffs and does a lot of damage and makes people attack a lot more. And then the ship that I have them in, well, the first one is deals kinetic damage to a single enemy and increases its received damage by a certain amount for 2 turns. This deals 1 to 2 attacks to a single enemy. So this is making extra direct attacks. Remember, those extra direct attacks are going to trigger everything else. And then the small Nosferatu deals kinetic damage to a single enemy wing and reduces its firepower and data rate by 5% for 2 turns while stackable. So this is suppressing their data rate while shooting a lot of times and hitting them. Combine that with the other 2, and that makes them a pretty decent team. Okay? So that's kind of how the pilots and the ship work together to give you things to do during the fight. Okay? And you kind of evaluate what pilots are good for what ships. It's also worth noting that you can see that in my setup, Amelie is encirclement, Men's is encirclement and intercept, and the Corax is encirclement. So in the end, when I look at my actual fleet, I see I have my 15% bonus for encirclement, I have my bonus for them all being Caldari, and I also get an additional bonus for their personal synergy. If we look at the characters and we look into their bios, we can see that certain guys go together. So in this case, it's Valamo's friends. So Emil and Men's Repola, or Mila or Ortro, if they're together, then they also gain offensive and tactics of commanders by 11 and data rate by 11. So they're going to hit a little bit harder, take a little bit less damage, and go a little bit sooner in the turn. The way data rate works is, so data rate, unlike raid where it's like if you've got a lot of speed you can go multiple times in a single turn, it's closer to like initiative order of the turn. Okay, the person with the highest data rate wins. However, there are 2 other abilities that are worth taking into consideration. There is there is quick response and delayed response. Quick response means that you go... You're here with tinfoil? Ooh. And if you want to think about it this way, the turn functions as like 3 different turns. There's quick response phase, where everybody with quick response gets to go based on their relative data rate with each other. So if there's only one person with quick response, congratulations, he goes first. If there are 2 people with quick response, they go, like the one with the highest data rate goes first, the second one goes second, and then everybody else goes in the next phase. Then there's the normal phase, where everybody who doesn't have a quick response or delayed response gets to go based on their data rate. Now, obviously, they go after everybody with quick response, and they go before everyone with delayed response. But internal to themselves, it's based on their data rate. Likewise, then everybody with delayed response gets to go. So if you're delayed response, if you're the only person with delayed response, congratulations, you go last. If you have multiple people with delayed response, then they go in the order that they have data rate, but after everybody else. All right. So that's how that plays out. Okay, so you've got your ship. You've got your pilot. How does this actually lead to power? Well, as your pilot levels up, your pilot gets what's called squad capacity, okay? If we actually go to configure here, and I go to swap out this pilot, you can see all of my pilots. And you can see I've got level and I've got squad capacity. If I sort by squad capacity, you can see for the most part, my highest level people also have the highest squad capacity. Squad capacity goes up as you level, blah, blah, blah. Squad capacity is the secret to power in EVE Galaxy Conquest. Because the point here is that this ship stat here, like that 525, is per squad, right? That's why it says ships per squad. All this stuff is per squad. So if this pilot if Karen Midgeler can have 10,300 squads, well, that's a lot of power, right? That's more than if you can have 3,000 squads. That's for sure. So that's how the overall power goes. And that's what you're refilling at the bottom here, right? So Karen Midgeler has 10,000 squads. Frumgar here has 10,000 squads. So my grand total is 20,000 squads. Now I'm at half power. So you can see that, like, my bar isn't full, and I need to refill it by refueling it with components, which are built in your base, or you can do it. You can repair people without components, but with just the raw resources of ore, ice, and gas in any sort of outpost or structure that you put them in. But if you're doing it in your main base, you can just rearm them with components right away. Poof, they're back in action, and that affects their power. So, like, if I come here to... Oh, my Dremule's at max power. So we can see here that, like, with 22,300, the Dramule has 700 power, 22,000 of them. I have 459,000 power. Now, it's going to be a little bit higher than the direct math because the pilots themselves add their own power to the point. But that's kind of how to understand the whole thing. And then when I go into fight... I can lose squads by taking damage, and that's what needs to be repaired. So the pilot, the ship itself brings the power. The pilots bring the squads, and the squads magnify the power to give you your total fleet power. And each pilot controls their own wing. So when you see wing, you mean like one, basically, when you see a wing, think a half to a third of the fleet. A fleet is the fleet, and squads are individual components that are basically just a number to us. And that's how to understand kind of how to build your fleet a little bit more. There are some good combinations in the guide at the bottom left of the ship section, and there are some pretty decent explanations as to why some of these are good. I have actually found some of them sort of confusing too, but you can find some combinations, and it also will often, like, it'll give you alternatives sometimes. Like this one says you can use Yun instead of Karen Midgeler. But the basic one is this setup, which is kind of what the game gives you, which is kind of a trap, but that's probably a topic for another day. So hopefully all of those will get you started in being able to build your own fleets for EVE Galaxy Conquest. Let me know what topic you want me to tackle next. Hopefully this was valuable to you. Let me know if I missed anything or if you have any other guides, tips. I didn't want to do like a straight up tier list. I want to do that later. The other problem is that tier lists, especially this early in the game, things are shifting around. So the relative power of any given thing might not be the way it is in a month, and that would suck. So this is how to actually interpret what you're looking at to make good choices and have fun building your fleets in EVE Galaxy Conquest. like I said, I'll have the link to the Notion, which has my resources, including all of the different keywords down below. But yeah, please let me know what you think, and is this guide useful to you, etc., etc. But for those of you who are live, go ahead and stay here. But for everybody who's watching the recording, thank you guys for coming. I've been Ashrothi. I've been playing this. Well, I've been playing this game for only a month, but I've been playing EVE Online since 2010 and talking about it since 2012, and I'm here to put EVE into context for you, my fellow Empyreans. Thank you guys so much for checking it out, liking the channel, and actually sharing around this video. I know that there isn't a lot of EVE Galaxy Conquest content out right now. I hope to help fill that hole a little bit, and I do appreciate those of you who have been checking out my channel, looking for some EVE Galaxy Conquest stuff, and checked out my previous live stream. It was more of a let's play than focused stuff. We want to do more focused guides. Let me know what kind of things, what sort of questions that you have and topics that we can cover. Yes, just like in EVE Online, there is no best fleet. There's only best for the current situation. But with all that, I've been Ashrothi, the voice of New Eden. Until next time, I'll see you in space. Woo! All right. All right, guys. All right. That was a good one. Is that it for today? Is that it for today? Today really is, I mean, let's be honest. Today is mostly waiting for tomorrow. I really, really wanted to create that guide because it's like strike the iron while it's hot. I don't care what you naysayers say, there's a lot of interest in EVE Galaxy Conquest. It is doing quite well, its reviews are quite well, its downloads are quite good. There are some unpopulated servers, but definitely on the server that we've had plenty of activity. You know, it's growing. I've had more people in our Discord than we've had in quite some time on a pretty regular basis. People getting involved on this on all different levels. If you are interested in checking it out, we are technically still recruiting, but you definitely will have to catch up, which we can help you out with. But yeah, also very interested in doing stuff in EVE. We've been doing some faction warfare stuff. I was prepared to do some plexing today, but this is already gone for 2.5 hours. Yeah. I want to know more, and I can't wait till tomorrow. Can I go to sleep and wake up tomorrow, and then we can talk about this stuff then? Now the claim about the passive requires an active trigger. No. Oh. I see what you're saying. Oh, I'm sorry. I must have. Sorry. Yeah. I must have misspoke, or something. A passive doesn't require an active trigger. Like this is a passive, and it's happening all the time. But let's look at exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about Kamul, right? We were talking about Kamul. Some passes are standalone, like Kamul's tier 3. What are you talking about? So, this is a command skill that has 100% chance to trigger. So it always goes off. And therefore, the passive that's tied to it also always goes off. Is that the... Because, like, this is 35% chance. So this 100% chance only happens when this does. But this one, it's a command skill that already has 100% trigger chance. So this increased firepower by 20 and data rate by 20 is going to happen. And when that happens, during the prep phase, it's also going to cause potential to happen. So potential still is not standalone. It's just tied to another 100% trigger. I know it seems pedantic, but understanding like how these things interact with each other, I think is going to be really, really important in the long run. to finding good combinations. Ooh, speaking of which, I can promote her. All right. Anything else? Anything else? Questions, comments, concerns? Things I haven't covered? Things I should have covered? Congratulations to Ty for having the first level 46 pilots in our group. All right. Well, in that case, I will be back tomorrow. Knock on wood. God, I'm gonna have to. I don't get like. I might have my sick son. I might have my dog flipping out, but I'm going to be here talking about the patch notes. Can't wait to see you guys there. I'm going to go probably play Galaxy Conquest until then. But I've been Ashtarothi. I've been playing this game too. You've already heard about that stuff just now. Love you guys. Thank you guys for checking out the stream. Thank you for making it this far. If you're watching this after the stream, thank you for watching it all the way. Please leave me a comment for what other, like as I've asked before, what kind of other things that I should go over when it comes to EVE Galaxy Conquest. And also, like, EVE Online, man. I've been thinking about making more guides on EVE Online, but I'd really like to know, like, what kind of topic people would like more. Also, for you lore geeks, I did just do my reading for the first chronicle of the Black Mountain series, which is a big series for the characters in this game, in the EVE Galaxy Conquest. And I think it's going to be a very interesting chronicle to dig through, or series of chronicles to dig through for what's currently going on with the SSCT and the Deathless. I got the first one in the bag, but only the audio of it. So we'll be working on that. It is in the supporters channel. If you are a supporter, or if you've been gifted a membership, it's worth tying it to your to your Discord account, to your YouTube account, so that way you get supporter status and into the supporter channel, because in the supporter channel I post videos early and other discussions about like what topics I should cover, or if I should go live today or whatever. I confer with my supporters, but I also post like early stuff. In this case, you can listen to my chronicle reading for the first bit of Black Mountain. Hey, Punchinello07, thank you for that like, sub, and share reminder. And, of course, thank you so much to Stoic for your grand support earlier today. And for all of you for showing up, hanging out, and making it this far. So, I'm heading out. I've been Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden. Until next time, I will see you in space. In 2 different games. It's amazing. Buy merch.
Bring on the wrecking machine. For every city